Hello and welcome everyone, it's me, TheLaval, also known as the Power Tool Duelist, back for you with another episode of Straight Outta the Toolbox. And the deck we're looking at today is going to be Crawlers. This is a deck I've had in the works for quite a while, and just at the beginning of the week I just made some finishing touches to this, and today I want to go over this, then as always, harp against them into a match against one of the Edo Pro bots, just to show you guys how the general playstyle of the deck functions. But starting off, the main deck here are two Deus Ex Krawler. First of all, this is a flip deck, so most of these, if not all of these effects, are flip effects. Deus Ex Crawler, when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets it while it's face down, you can buy quick effect, change it to face up defense position, negate that activation. If you do, destroy the card. When this thing is flipped face up while it's in the monster zone, negate all monster effects activated on your opponent's field. And if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add from your deck to your hand a level 9 monster with a different original type and attribute than this thing. Both are hard ones per turn. This is cool, it's just a big body that you can summon off Gleal, but in general I don't want to max out on this thing because I feel like it's too bricky and it doesn't really advance the deck in any way because it's a very swarming heavy deck that wants to make link plays. So this thing at 2 I feel like is completely fine. Then we have 3 World Legacy World Armor. When a monster is flip summoned, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if it's normal or special, you can add a World Legacy card from your deck to your hand. This is one of those World Legacy archetypes, so it ties into the entire lore with Crusadia, Orcus and all that. And so you have the option to run a few very good cards in that regard. Then, by quick effect, you can target, while this normal summon card is on the field, you can also by quick effect target one face-up monster your opponent that was controls that was special summoned from the extra deck and return both and discard to the hand. But because you won't normal summon this thing, in general you will special summon this thing off its effect when you flip summon to add a World Legacy card. But yeah, the search effect is great because you want to grab World Legacy Survivor to maybe mill Mind Meld off this effect, or just grab World Legacy Pawns or maybe your field spell. So it's great for that. Then we have 3 Crawler Dendroid. All the main deck Crawlers share one effect. That is if they face up on the field and they leave the field because of an opponent's card effect, either because they get banished or something else, you can special summon 2 Crawler monsters with different names from your deck and face down defense. That is an effect that is shared by all main deck Crawlers except Deus Ex. So I'm just gonna go over the general flip effect. Dendroid, flip, sends a monster from your deck to the graveyard. It's a foolish burial on flip. In most cases I feel like it's probably one of, if not the weakest main deck Crawler, because it's basically just here for the name and just to get more Crawlers in general. Then we have Ranvier, as mentioned, Crawler effect, floats into 2 when it leaves the field because of an opponent's card. But by flip, you can add 2 Crawler monsters from your deck from your graveyard to your hand. Great effect, great recursion. You do mill a lot of Crawlers with World Legacy Survivor and through Dendroid's effect, so he is very appreciated. And just like Dendroid, a 3-of. Then we have Crawler Receptor, flip effect. Add a Crawler monster from your deck to your hand. Great effect, fetches your entire monster lineup essentially. So it's great for that. Then we have Gleal. Gleal special summons a Crawler monster from your hand or graveyard in either face-up attack or face-down defense. The ability to summon in face-down defense is very much appreciated in the flip deck, and just special summoning another body onto the board is great. Then we have Axon. Axon destroys a spell on the trap if it's flipped. And then we have Spine. Spine destroys a monster when flipped. As mentioned, all of these share the ability to float into 2 Crawlers from your deck when they are destroyed or sent or leave the field because of an opponent's card while they're face up. Then your search spell, World Legacy Survivors. You excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, you add an excavated Krawler or World Legacy card from those to your hand. and the remaining cards are sent to the graveyard. If there were no targets for this effect, you shuffle all excavated cards back into the deck, and after this card resolves, you can only link summon. It's alright. Fetch is basically your entire archetype and your most important spells in the form of World Legacy and Shadow, or World Legacy pawns. You have the possibility to mill Mind Melt through those revealed cards. It's great for that. Then a 3-of Wormbait. This is a very spam heavy link deck, and 2 of your link monsters are quite generic, as Neurogos only takes 2 insects and Synapses only takes 2 earth monsters, which those worm tokens definitely fulfill that. So dropping this while you control an insect, getting those 2 tokens, basically nets you a free link monster. So every one of these, when you drop it, is another link monster, and that is what you are most wanting to do. 1 terraforming to grab the field spell, then I just run 1 Book of Moon. It exists, it's Book of Moon. You can run 3 if you really like Book of Moon, but you can also cut this. Then we have World Legacy and Shadow. This is your field spell. It's a great field spell, by the way. All crawlers on the field gain 300 attack and defense, first of all, and once per turn, you can special summon 1 level 2 or lower insect monster from your hand in face up or face down defense. And when a flip monster you control is destroyed by battle with an opponent's monster, that monster gets sent to the graveyard. Notice, it sends and does not destroy, so it not only bypasses maybe some protection effects, but also bypasses some floating effects, which is neat. Enables you to basically, when you open 2 crawlers and this, go into one of your links. That link will float again once it leaves the field, and this and that. You are most likely, or what your game plan is in general, to just stick a link monster, stick a few crawlers, and then slowly generate advantage and slowly let your crawlers swarm the board, and then just win at some point because your opponent can't out your constant spam of link monsters, in theory. Then we have World Legacy's Mind Melt. First effect is that when an opponent's monster activates this effect while you control a crawler monster, the activated effect becomes return 1 face-up monster your opponent controls to the hand. Kinda neat because it triggers your crawler's floating effects, and also gives you a form of interruption, so drawing this isn't so bad. But the main thing you want this for is the graveyard effect, which is that you can banish this from your grave, target a link monster on the field, and special summon a crawler monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard to a zone that card points to and face down defense. Nets you another body, so it's great for that, and enables a lot of swarming, so there's that. Last up, the Continuous Trap World Legacy Pawns. You can target a face down monster you control, change it to face up, or face up attack, or face down face up defense. And also you can shuffle 1 crawler monster from your graveyard back into your main deck, then target a face up monster you control and change that to face down defense position. Mostly looking to just basically by quick effect flip up Spine for disruptions, or just flip down a crawler that maybe ended up face up or something and didn't get used for a link, just so you can really use those effects. Then going into the extra deck, which is very slim at the moment. First up, 3 Qualiarch. Next up, let's get this out of the way. All crawler link monsters share the effect that if they leave the field because of one of your opponent's cards, either by battle or card effect, you can target 2 crawlers with different names in your graveyard, special summon them, and face down defense. So every crawler link monster automatically replaces itself with 2 bodies, essentially. Qualiarch gains different effects depending on the number of crawlers you control. 2 or more, all monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense. 4 or more, your opponent's cards or effects cannot be activated during the battle phase. And 6 or more, your monsters can attack directly. That last effect is kinda tricky to get off, but in general the attack boost is nice because the crawler link monsters all boost the monsters they point to, and with the amount of swarming you are easily able to get to that effect. So maybe be able to run over some threats your opponent controls. Then we have Neurogos, as mentioned, replaces himself with 2 crawlers from your graveyard when it leaves the field. Crawler monsters this thing points to cannot be destroyed by battle, gain 300 attack and defense, and if they battle an opponent's monster, any battle damage they inflict to your opponent is doubled. Neat. another link too. You mostly make this in the Qualiarch zones, so it's cool. Then we have Synapses. Crawler monsters he points to can also not be destroyed by battle and gain 300 attack and defense. And also they can make up to 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase. And he replaces himself with 2 crawlers from the graveyard when he leaves the field because of an opponent's card. All of these are very neat. You want to max out on all of these because you want to make these as much as possible. That's why you run the Wormbait, it's why you run the field spell, it's why you want to just get a lot of buddies on the board and make these 3. So you can stack those effects and win off that. Then I play 3 Mrs. Radiant, just an Earth booster. It's kind of neat for that, and also the recursion that you can add an Earth monster from your graveyard back to the hand is also kind of cool. But in general, you can fill the extra deck with link monsters you like. I have a Magna Crusader Evermax and a Borrellow Dragon and a Decode Talker here just to show that. But fill this extra deck with link monsters as you feel like, but I generally advise to max out on all the Crawler link monsters because those are your main ones. Then just talking about a few tags real quick, we have Subterra Behemoth Fiendus. Lets you send a flip monster from your deck to the graveyard and then special summon a monster from your hand and face down defense position into a zone she points to. You make her with 2 flips, and once per turn, if a monster this card points to is flipped up, add a flip monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. She's kind of neat, can net you some advantage. Really haven't tested with her, but in general she exists and she's definitely an option for your extra deck. Then you can have some fun with the Insect Legacy support, gaining the extra protection with Insect Queen and having a bigger main deck buddy than Deus Ex Crawler or the World Armor is kind of neat. Parasite Paranoid is kind of cool as like a hand trap kind of thing. As well as Cocoon of Ultra Evolution, especially in combination with Parasite Paranoid. This gives you a good amount of removal because you equip this to an opponent's monster, it's treated as an insect. So you contribute it off with the Cocoon to special summon an insect from your deck, which is neat. Also, because this thing ignores summoning condition, you can of course go into one of the best designed cards of all time, Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth. I think we can all agree on that. Just bypassing the summoning condition and slapping a 3500 body onto the board is hilarious. Other options include Doomdozer, just banishing 2 insects, getting a 2800 body on the board is kind of neat. And because your field spell mentions insect monsters that are level 2 or lower, you can of course run Man-Eater Bug, which is again a flip monster, so it also synergizes with your equip spell, but at this point you're kind of reaching for it. Giant Ballpark is also an option. Great field spell. When a player would take damage, you can make neither player take any battle damage, and if you do, send a level 4 or lower insect monster from your deck to the graveyard. And if you send a normal monster, you can special summon any monster with the same name as that monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard. In combination with that, you can mostly run Shiny Black Sea Squatter. It's your biggest insect normal buddy you can send off this. You could also run Goki Pole to search for him, or just any other cool level 4 insects you can think of. Also, Goki Pawn and Denny Pawn are things. Those are level 2 insects. That means you can special summon them off Wild Legacy and Shadow, and if they get destroyed by battle, they search insect monsters from your deck. It's kind of neat. Just generic insect support as well. Verdant Sanctuary. If an insect monster is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, its controller can add an insect monster with the same level as the destroyed monster from your deck to their hand. Most of your main deck is level 2, so you can just continue grabbing those level 2s, which is kind of cool. But as mentioned, I feel like the list functions well as it is. Lairwire gives you an interruption, banish an insect, and select a monster your opponent controls, destroy the selected monster. It's cool, but in general I feel like Mind Meld offers a better form of interruption if you draw it, and in general I feel like you don't really need this. Spider Egg is also something that exists. Opponent declares a direct attack while you have 3 or more insects in your graveyard, negate the attack. Excuse me, and if you do, special summon 3 spider tokens. Nets you more link material, is able to catch an attack, but in general I feel like the deck functions well as pure as possible. You can of course have fun with these things, I've tested the legacy insect support in this, and it's kind of fun, especially if you end up slapping a perfectly ultimate grade moth on the board. But crawlers, I feel like, work best in this more pure variant. So let's see how that works. And I will see you when we get into that match. So here we are in the match, and we are going first. We start off with World Legacy Survivor. We want to dig for our field spell, and we don't get it. I'll just grab a spine at this point. Set Gleal, set Mind Melt. As mentioned, it's kind crawlers start off kind of slow, which is the main disadvantage of this deck. Just flipping the Gleal here to get out Deus Ex from the grave, which is a big body that will buy us time. Yeah, but where I was going. Crawlers start out painfully slow. Really just trying to put up some bodies and just generate advantage really slowly. Trying to pop it here to get the spine effect in this case, which will net me a receptor, or maybe go for Axon and Gleal in this case. And this is something you can definitely do. Use spine to try and pop a monster that will definitely try to negate that effect, because that in the end will net you a good bit of advantage. Axon triggering here just to get rid of one of his back row. Then flipping the Gleal to special summon a spine and face down defense. Next up we will go into Qualiarch with those two, flip up our DSX, then we'll just normal summon Dendrite, activate the World Legacy and Shadows to get a Receptor out on the board and face down defense, enter battle phase, attack with Qualiarch, run into the Mirror Force, no big deal, because we just activate Qualiarch, which will float into DSX and Gleal. And I think because we do not have the space, we need to pass out on the Dendrite effect, but just like that. You will have that one point in your game where you just swing around, you have 4 monsters on the board, and you are constantly able to keep this kind of advantage. Using the Gleal here to get back the Qualiarch, then flipping up Spine to get rid of the Rom Claudia, as the Decode Talker will just negate. Using Mind Melt here, negating that Decode Talker, using the Receptor here to add another Krawler from deck to hand. And at this point in time it's essentially over for him, because I just take 2 Earths to go into Mrs. Radiant, normal summon the Dendrite to make a Neurogos. And as you can see, the boosts are stacking up quite nicely. I can, of course, take the World Legacy and Shadows at this point and just set another Crawler onto the board. Could have also summoned that one, but this already is game. He's trying his best to really hold up here, but this is what I meant. The deck is slow at the start, and if your opponent is not able to really captivate on this, you can definitely overrun your opponent in a few turns, as you've just seen. But in general, the deck is very slow, as you can see. I'm setting 3 cards in 2020. Mind Melt gets popped here. I don't really care. I just want the graveyard effect anyways. I'll probably just flip the pawns, activate the effect now, change the monster from face down to face up. Face up defense, so that spine effect triggers, pops the Link Slayer, He gets another one out on the board, is probably going to end up making a decode talker here. Yes. Well. I'll just set a spine, activate the mind meld, and I'll special summon a Glial from deck. Thanks for the link arrow. Really appreciate it. Seeing the dot scraper come down here, Glial effect is going to resolve, which is going to get striked, but I don't really care because Glial just left the field because of an opponent's card effect, which means I will set a DSX and a spine from my deck. Could have also gone for a receptor instead of the spine because I still have one set, but that really is not a priority at this point. Dropping the World Legacy Survivors here to see if I can't dig into my field spell. I cannot, so I'll just pick up a receptor. Flipping up spine here, activating the effect, targeting the decode talker, chaining the world armor because I special summoned, flip summoned, excuse me, which will now trigger the spine effect, and because I special summoned it, we will get the search with world armor. He will get a dot scraper back, but that is no big deal. I'll just grab my field spell at this point. Spine will set a Ranvier and a Glial from deck. Then I'll just flip up another spine, flip up a DSX, use those two to go into Krawler. Enter the battle phase, swing over that dot scraper so that gets wiped off the board. Enter main phase 2. Oh, I do have a normal summon list. Well, then I misplayed. I just set the receptor, activate the World Legacy and Shadows, and just set another monster. Pretending like nothing happened, but as you can see, I am generating a lot of advantage. I can definitely go for a lot of plays because if he negates what I'm trying to do, all he's really doing is just helping me up, set up more plays. Because everything replaces itself. If he negates one of my Krawler effects, then so be it. Or if he tries to interrupt me in any way, shape or form. Just grabbing a Dendrite here, so I can get some more advantage out this. Going into Neurogos, flipping the DSX, flipping Axon. I don't want to use the effect because I would only destroy my own. Flip summoning Ranvier here, using that effect to grab a spine and an Axon. And that's just what I meant. You do generate a decent amount of advantage at one point, but just getting to that point is what the main problem and also the main obstacle for this deck. If this deck was a bit faster in generating this amount of advantage, you could definitely I could definitely see more people playing this deck. I mean, this deck does have its dedicated fan base, I know, but in general it's just a tad too slow to really work out. DSX can, by the way, swing twice because he's co-linked with Synapses and deals double battle damage, which is absolutely insane. This has been the match. I do really enjoy this deck because it's very swarming heavy and it ties in really well with the identity that crawlers have in the World Legacy lore, being this huge hive mind-like insect race that just, as you can see in the field spelled art here on the back of the dueling field, just fills up so much space and tries to take over. And I feel like in general they really do a good job at incorporating that into the gameplay, because it starts off with 1, and then there's 2, and then there's 3, and then there's just an entire board of link monsters that runs you over like it has no other business. But this has been it. This has been the Straight Out of the Toolbox on Crawlers. I will see you in the next video, and thank you guys very much for watching. But until then, Goodbye.